this one, it is wanting me to write the new function after the following transformations have been performed. So this one is telling me g of x is changing f of x by shifting 3 units left. Remember, left and right move opposite the sign. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to name my new function g of x, and then I'm going to write that first part up until the -2, because that's not changing, but it is moving 3 units left, so I'm going to add 3, and this also goes inside the function. The +1 is still there at the end. So then I still need to do the math on the inside. So -2 plus 3 is going to be +1. +1. Okay. B is changing g of x, so the one I just did for part A, by shifting it 5 units down. So this one is now called h of x, and everything up to the end of the absolute values is going to stay the same. So I'm going to have my +1 there, and then this time I'm going to subtract 5. So up and down, change the outside, and they stay exactly the same as the side. So then I'm going to rewrite this. I have h of x equals the negative absolute value of x plus 1, and then 1 minus 5 gives me -4. Moving on, number 2 works the same way as number 1. This time I'm shifting 2 units up first, and this is the function I'm changing. So I have g of x equals 2 absolute value x plus 3 -4, and then this time I'm going 2 units up, so I'm going to add 2. And then I combine like terms at the end, so I have g of x equals 2 times the absolute value of x plus 3. -4 plus 2 is -2. Okay, B wants me to change it by shifting 3 units right. So, h of x equals 2 absolute value x plus 3. Moving right is negative, so I'm subtracting 3 on the inside. And -2 on the outside. So 3 minus 3 cancels out, so I'm just left with h of x equals 2 absolute value x minus 2. Number 3, it wants me to write a new function that has a vertical stretch of 3 and shifts up 2. So the first thing I'm going to do, because it tells me it has a vertical stretch, is that I'm going to write 3 on the outside of my absolute value function. This is my first step. My second step is going to be to shift up 2. So because this happens second, it doesn't affect the vertical stretch that already has happened. Shifting up 2 just goes straight at the end. Number 4 works the same way. It wants me to write a new function that has a vertical shrink of 1/2 and a reflection across the x-axis. So this is my first step, and then when I reflect, that'll be my second step. So I'm going to write g of x equals 1/2 the absolute value of x for my first step. And then for my second step, reflecting across the x-axis is going from positive to negative. So that is going to change it on the outside. So I'm going to have -1/2 absolute value x. If I had had a reflection on the y-axis, that would have been changing on the inside, and I would have made the x on the inside negative. Number 5 wants me to pick all the ones that have a vertical stretch. This means outside number is more than 1. And by outside number, I mean the number in front of the absolute values. So 2/3 is not more than 1. This one is more than 1. I ignore negative signs when I'm looking for stretch. Because negative in this context just tells me it reflects. Over here I have 3/2. 3/2 is more than 1 because if I was to divide, it'd give me 1.5. 1/5, less than 1 because it gives me 0.20. Same thing over here on vertical shrink, except this one is going to be less than 1. So 4 is more than 1, doesn't work. 1/2 is 0.5. 0.2, less than 1. -3, more than 1. Moving on. This one wants me to write the equation of a line with a slope of 2/3 and a y-intercept of 3. Slope is my m, y-intercept is my b. Remember, the equation of a line in slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So I just plug those straight into my equation. I have y equals 2/3 x plus 3, and that's my answer. Same thing on number 8. -4 is going to be my m. -1 is going to be my b. I plug those in. I get y equals -4x minus 1. Okay, number 9 wants me to write the equation of the line in slope-intercept form, and I don't know my slope, so I'm going to want to use the slope formula to find it, which is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And I want to go ahead and label my points. 3 is going to be x1, 4 is going to be y1, 0 is going to be x2, 5 is going to be y2. So then I'm going to plug into my equation. I have m equals 5 minus 4 over 0 minus 3. 5 minus 4 is 1, 0 minus 3 is -3. I'm going to just rewrite this so the 3 is on the top. So I know my slope is -1/3, and because I have the point 0.05, I know that this is my y-intercept. So I'm just going to plug this in. I'm going to have y equals -1/3 x plus 5. And I'm going to do the same thing on number 10. I'll label my points x1, y1, x2, y2. I'm going to plug into my slope formula. I have -2 minus -1 over 0 minus -2. -2 minus -1 is the same thing as adding 1. So that's going to give me -1 on top. And 0 minus 2 on the bottom is the same thing as adding 2. So I'm going to have 2 on the bottom. I have -1/2 for my slope. And my y-intercept is -2. On number 11, it doesn't care if I write in point slope or intercept, slope-intercept form. To remind you of what point slope is, I'm going to write this off to the side. It's y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So this one gives me a slope of -4 and a point of 4, 1. All I have to do is plug this into that equation. My slope is m. My point is x1, y1. So then I'm going to have y minus 1 equals -4 times x minus 4. Because it doesn't care what form I have, I can just leave it like this. Or if I really want it in slope-intercept form, then I can go ahead and distribute. So I'd have y minus 1 equals -4x plus 16. Then I want to add my 1 to both sides, and I have y equals -4x plus 17. Both answers are correct. One just has more work. Same thing for number 12. My slope is 1, and my point is 5, 4. So I'm going to go ahead and plug that in. I have y minus 4 equals 1 times x minus 5. I can leave it like that, or I can go ahead and distribute and simplify. So I'm going to have y minus 4 equals x minus 5, because multiplying 1 by both of those doesn't change a thing. I add 4 to both sides, and then I get y equals x minus 1. Remember, both answers are correct. On number 13, it wants me to write the equation of the line in point slope form or through slope intercept. On this one, I want to rewrite my points. Not rewrite. I want to label my points. x1, y1, x2, y2. I'm first going to find my slope. So I have -1 minus -3 over 3 minus 2. -1 minus -3 is the same thing as -1 plus 3, which gives me 2 on top. 3 minus 2 on the bottom is 1. 2 divided by 1 is 2, so my slope is 2. I'm going to plug this into point slope form, and I'm going to have y minus -3 equals 2 times x minus 2. I can leave it like this, or I can go ahead and simplify. So if I simplify, I have y plus 3 on the left, 2x minus 4 on the right, then I add 3 to both sides, which gives me y equals 2x minus 1. Since it was given to me in function notation, I would want to keep it that way. So then I have f of x equals 2x minus 1. both answers are correct again. Okay, same thing for number 14. I want to go ahead and write these in, or label them as x1, y1, x2, y2. I have my slope formula I'm plugging into. I have 4 minus 1 over 0 minus 1, which gives me 3 on top, negative 1 on the bottom. 3 divided by negative 1 is negative 3. I'm going to go ahead and plug into slope-intercept form. Oh, and one thing I want to point out, if I used x2, y2 instead of x1, y1, it would have also given me the correct answer, and that would also be accepted on Canvas when you go ahead and take your test. So I'm plugging in x1, y1, so I have y minus 1 equals negative 3 times x minus 1. That would be a correct answer. And going along with what I just said, I could also write y minus 4 equals negative 3, x minus 0, and that would also be a correct answer. And if I go ahead and simplify, I'm going to do the blue one. So I have y minus 1 equals negative 3x plus 3. If I add 1 on both sides, I get y equals negative 3x plus 4. And that would be the same thing if I simplified the red equation. All three of those, not this one. Just kidding, because I forgot to write it as f of x. But all three of these equations are the same thing, and all three of them would be graded correctly on Canvas. So f of x equals negative 3x plus 4. Okay. Moving on. This one wants me to find 3 different things. It wants me to find the missing value of q, the rate of change, and the y-intercept. So if I take a look, all of my x values are increasing by 2. And all of my y values that I can see are increasing by 4. So I need to add 4 to 10 to get my q value, which is 14. Answer to my first part. My rate of change is going to be y over x, my change in y, and over my change in x. I should have thought of that before I wrote. Ooh, it's off the screen. So my change in y is 4, and my change in x is 2. Rate of change. So 4 over 2 simplifies to just 2. And then it wants me to find the y-intercept. So, knowing that x and y are 2 and 6 from my most recent one, I'm going to plug that in. Y is 6. Oh, I should say I'm plugging it into y equals mx plus b. So I know my y, my m, my x, and I'm looking for my b. So my slope is 2, and my x value is also 2, and I'm looking for my b. 2 times 2 is 4. And then I subtract 4 on both sides to get 2. So my y-intercept is 2. Okay, same thing on number 16. My x values are going up by 3. And my y values are going up by 12 from the 2 I can see. So I want to add 12 to 31 to find my q, which gives me 43. Then I want to find the rate of change, which is going to be 12 divided by 3, which gives me 4. And then I'm going to plug into my y equals mx plus b to find my y-intercept. So I'm going to do 7 equals 4 times 3 plus b. 4 times 3 is 12. And I'm going to go ahead and subtract 12 on both sides. I get b equals negative 5, so my y-intercept is negative 5. Intercept. Number 17 wants me to figure out my rate of change as I'm driving to California. It tells me 2 hours, so 2 is going to be my x1. It tells me my distance, which is going to be y1. Then it tells me 4 hours, which is going to be my x2, and my distance there, which is going to be y2. So I plug into the slope formula. So I'm going to have 220 minus 110 over 4 minus 2. 210 minus 100, 220 minus 110 is 110. 4 minus 2 is 2. 110 divided by 2 is 55. So 55 miles per hour. It's not a decimal. Anyways, if I did have one, I would read it as a decimal. On number 18, it works the same way. So distance is y1, hours is x1, 3 hours is x2, 180 is y2. So I plug into the equation 180 minus 120 over 3 minus 2. I get 60 on top and 1 on the bottom, which gives me 60 miles per hour. On number 19, it wants me to write the equation of the line given the slope triangle. So it's going down 3 and it's going over 1. So my slope is going to be negative 3 over 1, or just negative 3. I cannot see my y-intercept, but I do know this point is 1, 1. Ignore my parenthesis. So what I can do is I can plug into my y equals mx plus b equation again. And I have 1 equals negative 3 times 1 plus b to solve for b. So 1 equals negative 3 plus b. I add 3 to both sides. And I get 4 equals b. So my equation here is y equals negative 3x plus 4. Over here on number 20, same thing. I'm going up 1, right 2. So my slope is going to be 1 over 2. This one I actually can see my y-intercept. It's negative 2. So I write it as y equals 1/2 x minus 2. Number 21 wants me to find the line of best fit and then to use the line to estimate the value when x equals 10. So I am going to use my calculator. I'm going to clear my screen. So my calculator is a little different than the ones you guys see at school. I'm going to press the stat button. I'm going to go to edit. If my list wasn't empty, I'd go up to L1, press clear, and then move down and it would clear it out. But mine's empty, so I don't need to do that step. I'm going to go ahead and type in all of my values for x, which is L1. Y is always going to be L2. Okay, once I've typed in my values, I go second mode to go home. Then I press stat. I arrow over to calc. I press choice 4. I press enter. And it gives me the equation and the values to plug in. So my equation is going to be y equals 0.9x plus 2.2. That's my equation. The second part of this question wants me to find the value when x equals 10. So I am going to plug in 10 for x. Okay. I can type this straight into the calculator once I have that written out. 0.9 10 plus 2.2 will give me 11.2, which is my second answer. Number 22 works the same way. I want to use the data to find the line of best fit, so I'm going to go to Stat, Edit. This time I want to clear out my values, so I arrow up to L1, I press clear, I arrow down. Same thing for L2, I arrow up, press clear, arrow down. Then I go ahead and type in my x values. $29, $37, and $45. Once I've typed those in, I go second quit to go home. I go stat. I move over to calc, I type in 4, I press enter, and I write my equation. I get y equals 8.4x minus 16,830.4. Since these were nice decimals, I'm going to keep them right where they rounded. So that's my first answer. Then it wants me to estimate the sales in 2012. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in 2012 for my x value. Then I'm going to go ahead and type this straight into the calculator. That's 8.4 times 2012 minus 16,830.4, which gives me 70.4. Okay. If I take a look at A, it wants me to figure out the correlation. These are pretty close if I was going to go ahead and draw a line through them. Most of those points are really close to that line. So they have a strong correlation because they're really close to the line. And because the line's going down, it's negative. Okay, if I look at B, if I drew a line through the center, it's going up, but the points are very spaced apart. So this would be a weak positive. It's weak because they're not all close to the line, and it's positive because it's going up. Number 24 wants me to use this graph off to the side to determine the equation of the line passing through the points. And it gives me 2 points to use. So for 24, it wants D and F. So I'm going to connect those. My slope is down 1, right 1. Right 1. So then that would be negative 1 over 1, or just negative 1. It's crossing right here at 2. So that's my y-intercept. So I have y equals negative x plus 2. I don't have to write the 1 because it's implied when I just write the negative out front. I'm going to do the same thing for 25, but I'm going to use red for this one. I'm connecting C and G. It's got a slope of up 1 and right 2, so 1/2. And this one's also crossing through the point 2. So I have y equals 1/2 x plus 2.